Cassidy is gonna introduce himself, and then he's gonna pass it over to me, and I'll take the reins for a little while. So to you, Cass.
Yeah, hi everybody. Stop me if you can't hear me, Rob. I switched my headset again, but should be good. Good deal. Awesome. So my name's Cassidy. I'm an environmental scientist, and I've done a lot of I guess you'd call it youth education and volunteering to help kids work through science and math and really STEM learning projects of all ages through, I'd say grade 3 all the way up to the university level. I'm based here in Vernon in the Okanagan, and I've had a lot of amazing opportunities to work in really interesting remote places all over the world doing global change research. I have a PhD in Earth observation sciences, which means essentially we use satellites to monitor the Earth for changes over time from space. I now work as the executive account manager for Western Canada for a company called Planet Labs, who does daily repeat satellite mapping of the planet to make global change more transparent and accessible for companies and governments and individuals who want to monitor change in our environment. And I was fortunate enough to do a lot of field work in my grad studies, going in and actually doing field courses with students and teaching them about ecology and new technologies for monitoring environmental change. And growing up, I had a lot of big impact moments in outdoor education, even as a kid, going to wetlands and getting my hands dirty in the mud, and growing up in the BC interior in the shoe shops area, just really filled me with a passion for environmental science. And I joined up forces with Rob recently over the last year to kind of come together on this project that we're going to talk to you guys about today.
Yeah, thanks, Cass. And yeah, and I'm Rob, and I guess my interest in outdoor education really kind of stems from my youth. I grew up in a small town in the West Kootenays called New Denver. And this was just an amazing place to be a kid. I spent my formative years, building forts in the woods, hiking up drainages, swimming in Slocan Lake, fishing in alpine lakes. Needless to say, I'm a bit of an outdoor cat. So I decided eventually to do a career in forestry. And after a year after graduating from UBC, I was laid off. The forestry industry did a bit of a downturn, and I was the last guy hired, so I got laid off. But I didn't have to soul search for too long, because I knew what I was going to do. I was going to become a teacher. Now, I had a lot of amazing teachers in my life, and being in a small school, we had all kinds of amazing opportunities. In elementary, from grades 4 to 7, we would always do a week-long camping trip at the end of the year. And in grade 5, we were fortunate enough to do a whole canoeing trip around Slocan Lake. And I remember stopping and hiking up to, about 5-6 different waterfalls. And it was just the best. In biology 11, we went to the mountains on horseback. The goal was to learn about local geology and ecology. And one of the adults on this adventure was a well-published retired professor named Stan Rowe. Stan was a plant ecologist, and he was new to New Denver, and he was more than happy to kind of volunteer his time with us. Now, when Stan spoke about the relationships of ecosystems, and he knew the plants of absolutely everything and the Latin names and how they interacted within the ecosystem, it absolutely just kind of blew my mind. And I was fortunate to spend the next couple of days up in the alpine, subalpine, following kind of Stan around and asking questions and collecting plants. And I still have the plant collection to this day that I collected with Stan. And so my memories of this adventure are just so vivid. And a couple years later, there was logging that was going to be going on in New Denver in the local watershed. I was away at university, and I remember seeing my hometown on the news. And there was protests at the bottom. And I remember scanning through the crowd and seeing the people protesting. And there was a guy in the middle that really stood out, and it was Stan. He was there. He was dressed sharp. He was in a suit, and he was just standing so proud of to be there and standing up for what he believed in. And it really sparked that environmental advocacy. It planted that seed within me, seeing that guy that I knew, that I had spent time with in the mountains, saying, hey, wait a second, I don't think this is right. So it was just amazing to get to know him. Now I work at the Academy of Inquiry and Adventure in the Okanagan, and we offer diverse inquiry-based learning experiences where students build respectful relationships in a trusting community, right? We strive to make our learning as authentic and as real world as possible, where students uncover and discover the content in a real world fashion. So I've been fortunate enough to facilitate numerous outdoor education courses and build meaningful relationships in our community. And I really understand the benefits of long-term environmental education. So yeah, I mean, I guess for me, a lot of people can't say this, but I absolutely love my job. I really do. I get to provide and facilitate learning in a way that's research supported, where students have opportunities to learn from experts in our community. And I'm really excited to be here today and share with you what we've put together. And I hope this mapping project allows for other students to meet mentors that can provide that spark. And you know, maybe not everybody's going to meet their Stan Rowe like I did, but I think there's lots of opportunities to meet people that can create that spark and generate that interest in our youth. So this slide that Cass has put up here, these are some local people that I've been connecting with in the Vernon area. The gentleman off to the left is Eric Kurboski, and he's a local permaculturist. And last spring, we spent 8 days working with him and creating a food garden. He's also part of a nonprofit society that's aiming to restore Silk people's land pre-colonial times, and also knowledge and pre-colonial knowledge. And students just love working with him, and he's just a gentle, a soft man that kids just really gravitate to. In the middle is Steve Ward, and he's an entomologist. He recently retired from the local seed orchard. And he is actually the world expert on the Western conifer seed bug. And that's, to us, that's the stink bug. But if you can see the faces on the students there, when Ward visits, it's absolutely magical. Like the kids find things, and he brings his nets, and it's just, it's so neat to see the excitement. And on the right, well, that's Chantel Adams. She works with, she's the education coordinator with the Allen Brooks Nature Center, which is a local nonprofit. They have a grassland interpretive center, and they do local outreach. And we've been working with them for 3 years, collecting data on Vernon Creek, trying to gather enough data that it's meaningful and we can do something with it. Slide. And those are people that we were able to connect with out in the field. Because of COVID, not everybody we've been able to connect with in the field. And you can see these are people that we've reached out to online. So sometimes I reach out to experts, sometimes the students reach out to experts, and it comes together. And the guy in the top left corner there, Cassidy, he was actually looking to share his knowledge. He stopped in at the local science center and said, hey, I'm new to town. I've worked with kids before. Do you know any way that I can make a difference? And I know Dion at the Science Center. I've worked with her before. We've connected. And she suggested that I contact Cassidy. Well, next thing you know, Cassidy was doing 5 different Zoom sessions with us and sharing with different ideas of environmental global change sciences and like where that can take you. And Cass absolutely blew our mind and opened our eyes to the capabilities of spatial analysis. So just absolutely amazing. And then you look at, in the middle, we have Pamela Barnes. She's a West Bank First Nations elder and an adjudicate professor at UBCO. And with her, we've met online and discussed First Peoples principles of learning and storytelling. And actually in 2 weeks, we're going to be meeting with Pamela and her husband, who's one of the very few fluent Silk speakers in their community. And we're going to be spending an afternoon doing flint making and ethnobotany. So that's great to make that connection from online. And now we're actually going to be able to make it happen. At the bottom is Matt. And Matt is an analytical chemist, and he did his PhD research on smoke taint in wine grapes and the impact and detection. And he also shared his vast knowledge of career opportunities in chemistry. And you can make a very good living selling these instruments. Yeah, it was really, really great to talk with Matt. And top right-hand corner, we connected with James. And he was just an amazingly chill dude and had lots of great energy and shared with us his research on how they're trying to help the Columbia population of salmon. And he actually sent us a whole bunch of stuffed little white sturgeons. The kids absolutely loved them. At the bottom is Colleen O'Hare. And we reached out to Colleen, and she met with us 2 times before the pandemic, and we've met with her 15 times since online. And she encourages students to email her and ask her questions. And her passion for space is just amazing and so contagious. Her presentations are professional. And one of our students had a driving test at the end of one of her sessions, and he said, "Rob, I don't think I could do my driving test today. My brain is absolutely mush." So these are the types of connections that these experts, that these people in our communities can make. Next slide. So, what are the benefits of environmental outdoor education? So why? So just take a minute, think on this. So increase. Now, I don't want you to think on this. I don't really want to put too many words in your mouth, right? No, but these are all the benefits that studies show for outdoor environmental education. So I guess the question is, why don't we do more of this in our classes? And some of the ideas from our focus group and have come up with is like the cost of transportation, right, is one. The time to organize, right, is another. You got field trip forms, you have notices homes, you have emails from parents, and it becomes pretty cumbersome. And also another reason perhaps is maybe teachers don't know where to go or who to contact. Next slide. So what we need to build more bridges, right? So like the natural landscape, our collective environment knowledge, it's fragmented. And we need to find more ways for students to connect with the real world and learn from our local experts about the science that's happening right now in their hometown, right? And in their area. Next slide. So the last slide about fragmentation of knowledge, I've really given it a lot of thought. And one thing I thought was, well, man, there is, what can we do? What can we do about this fragmentation of knowledge? Last March, I reached out to a bunch of friends and colleagues and formed a diverse group of 12 people, including 2 students of mine. And we looked at this question: how to facilitate engagement between educators and local experts for outreach learning opportunities. And we spent many Zoom sessions and a lot of pretty rich discussions diving into this question. And it's so many different layers. Next slide. So, yeah, we need to be more, we need to find more ways to connect and have knowledge passed down with authentic experiences in nature and in the environment. So you see this creature here, this organism, slime mold, well, is brainless, it's single-celled, and it constructs networks of nutrient channeling tubes, right? It's able to reallocate resources as it needs without a brain. Absolutely amazing. And we need to be more like slime mold. We need to use our brains to become more like slime mold and construct networks of knowledge channeling tubes within our society. Next slide.
Yeah, well, so I was going to add here, I was fortunate enough to be part of this this focus group Rob invited me to, and he brought up this analogy of slime mold, and it really resonated with me because I'm a geospatial analyst. I've taught environmental management using spatial information technologies. For those of you who are familiar with geographic information systems, you take map layers. It could be like, where are the cities, where are the trees, where are the waterways, right? And build those layers on top of each other, and you start to see the connections between, the human footprint and the landscape. And spatial information is such a powerful tool for education and understanding change in the world and your place in it. And it really reminded me of the new information we've actually learned in the last few years in neuroscience. We know everybody learns differently. I myself am more of a visual learner, but it seems to be that maps and spatial information tends to be a very impactful way of learning. And really what it is like the core primitive part of our brain, the reptilian brain that evolved on a spatial awareness and understanding where resources are, places you visited, and where those are in relation. It's a very root fundamental part of our brains. And what kind of sets us apart from other animals in our problem solving, language, our ability to do all these really interesting intelligent activities, this neocortex on the top part of our brain, they've actually learned recently that the structures that built up that novel part of our brain are actually just replicants of that root spatial association component of our reptilian brain. And so that's why for us to learn new things, we have to relate it to previous things we learned through these neural mapping patterns in our brains. And that's why spatial learning is such a useful tool. And Rob, I don't know if you had anything else to say or if you wanted me to take it from here.
Nope. Go ahead, Cass.
Yeah, so during that focus group session, Rob really asked, he's like, how do we engage more people like yourself? Because I came looking to impart anything that I study or I'm passionate about in sciences and environmental research. And the idea came to me, well, I like to see things on a map. Like when I want to find a new vendor for something or a service or anything, I go to Google Maps and I search for it, and I try to pick the place that's closest to me, right? I try to say, well, I'll give these guys a go. They're 5 minutes down the road. And so I said, well, Rob, you're chock full of this amazing information data set on where you can take your kids and places that you've learned are good learning environments and places that might be a little bit further to get to, but it's worth it, right? Like not every teacher that wants to start doing outdoor education has that set of resources. And so they might come to you, but you can only stretch yourself so thin. And why don't we start putting this stuff on a map? And that kind of formed this idea for what we've developed that we like to call the Outdoor Experts Map. It's really a place for people who are outdoor enthusiasts and experts. Maybe they're scientists, ecologists, or they work in an outdoor setting, and they want to connect with classrooms and kids and teach them what it's like to work in those settings and what they're passionate about, the kind of settings that really resonate with kids. And so we just thought about it. We said, well, let's do a quick prototype. We don't have a budget. Let's look at what we can do online with some mapping tools. And we landed on this platform. It's called the Google My Maps. It's a freely available tool where anybody can kind of start on Google Maps and start putting down points of interest, or taking sites that are already on Google Maps and saving them to your favorites on this type of map platform. And so we have a website that we put together. It's oemap.ca, stands for Outdoor Experts. And really we'll walk you through what that looks like and what we hope to communicate to you guys on why we think this is a really neat tool that the Teachers Association could benefit from for folks and educators looking to utilize resources near them for outdoor education. So this is really, a preview of what that map looks like. What we figured out is that on this free map tool, you can kind of create these map layers or categories. And we struggled with how to organize the information, but we landed on these layers, grouping the information of locations into, experts and guided programs, traditional ecological knowledge, aquatic ecosystems. Tried to group, parks into one area, education centers into another. This is a fairly flexible type of grouping that can evolve over time, but this is our first crack at trying to make a kind of standardized approach to, if I'm going to add a point on the map that I know that I've been to or I manage myself as an outdoor expert that I would love to connect with educators about. These are the kind of guidelines we're hoping to conform to and grouping, so that when you actually look at the map, I'll go back one real quick, the colors are all organized. So like one color is one type of location category. The symbols we use try to represent, so like we got a little pick and hammer to represent the the geology-based learning, outdoor learning sites. And so we've kind of got a set of standards that we've started on locations to put on the map. What I'll do here is I'll actually bring up the map and show you guys how easy it is to actually contribute to it. And before we get to that, here's our team. Here's our ragtag group of outdoor experts so far. We're based in the Okanagan, and it's kind of unique. We've got lifelong experts in outdoor education like Kim Fulton, also known as Dr. Fish. Allison is based down in Penticton, and she's got a wealth of knowledge. She really goes out of her way to try to do outdoor education, and she's been really beneficial to adding points onto the map that she knows, that she's taken classes to, and she can speak to, I guess, the validity of those sites for a map resource. We've also got kind of a volunteer web developer. I mean, we're all volunteers, but Kayla is our web developer who's helping us figure out, how do we make this an easy platform to interact with, and so we don't have a bunch of dead ends on our website. And then Rob and myself, who we've already introduced ourselves. Rob, did you want to comment on any of these outdoor experts before I go on?
Yeah, and just looking at the outdoor experts there, two of those people that are now part of this group were people that my students and I had contacted before. I met Kim doing stream science about 4 years ago, and he's just been just a wonderful mentor and someone that I ask questions about, that I ask questions of. So and Cass, is now part of this, and he was part of the crew as well. And it's just been an amazing crew to work with, and it's always a lot of fun when we see each other after 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, it's cool. We try to get together about once a month. We can do it more often if there's like some urgent thing to discuss that we want to hop on a video call or something. But it's always a good time because everyone's fairly like-minded. We have these value sets, where we were raised to value environmental integrity and ecological knowledge, and really there's a really cool vibe between outdoor expert members who can kind of resonate and talk about current issues and how do we improve education connections with environmental awareness. And really one big part of the talk we're trying to get across here is that we'd love for more people to connect with us. So educators like yourselves who want to get more involved with outdoor education, place-based learning or experiential learning, and especially folks who already have that experience and have places that they take their kids to that they'd love to see added to this map, a map of resources where other educators can use that tool. And on top of that, if you know any experts or people that are passionate in this field of, they've got a career in environmental science or anything related to outdoor activities, could even be, recreation centers, ecologically sensitive area management, foresters who are out there actually doing, forest inventories or timber cruises. Those people that are really passionate about what they do working outdoors and want to connect with educators and engage educators to bring them out into the field, into their day-to-day. Those are the kind of folks we'd love to connect with. So it's pretty straightforward on how to reach us. I mean, those of you on this already are likely familiar with this, but if you wanted to share this with others, That's the website, and that's there's a little contact form in there. You just put your name and email and add a note like, I'm an educator, I want to get involved, I'm an outdoor expert. I think I'm an outdoor expert. And it's pretty straightforward for us to actually add you as an editor. So the map itself, I should clarify, isn't just a free-for-all. You can't just go, anybody can't just put points on the map because it'll get a bunch of junk and noise in the data set. So we would just, have a chat with you. It looks like you're a good fit to add some valuable places and information onto the map. One of the criteria for sure is like, we don't want to assume that people in traditional, ecological, or indigenous locations want us putting their sites on the map. We want somebody internally to be approving something like that. We want to make sure if kids are going out to ecologically sensitive areas that they're aware, the teachers and the students are both aware of the impact they can have on those sites. And so we do try to pick places that are best suited to the type of values we want to impart. And really what those values are social and environmental responsibility. We want to create people that have this passion for sustainable development. And we know that there's a huge environmental and global change crisis happening. There's a big shift in trying to create people out of our students that want to be a part of the solution here. And so there's been a number of studies that show place-based outdoor learning has this real long-lasting effect on student performance. And we want to make sure that we're helping to reduce any barriers that there are in achieving that. So what I'll do real quick is I'll bring up the map and we can have a discussion. I'll show you guys real quickly just how easy it is to put a map point down. Got to get out of full screen mode if I can.
Yeah, one of the questions that came up in the chat cast, people were like, "Yeah, this is looking great. I'd love to add it in my area," and that's what Cassidy's going to be showing now. We want our site to be a bit of a landing pad, and we can add other maps to the site of different areas.
That's right. So I'm getting all the Zoom controls, blocking my controls. So bear with me here. All right, let's see if this works. So here's our website, oemap.ca. It just kind of gives you a general introduction to what we're trying to do, who we're trying to connect with. Just a one-pager. They've got a contact us button for that form I showed you. If you click on this little preview of our map, it actually opens up our map into a whole new page, and you get an interactive tool. So you can see all the points we put in here are in the Okanagan. We don't know for sure if it makes sense if lots of people want to contribute to have all the points put on one map. They might get a little too busy with the amount of points people put down. So we could have a separate map for the Lower Mainland, or maybe a separate map for your own school district, or maybe Vancouver Island or the Kootenays. And it's pretty straightforward for us to copy our map template that we have, give you full control and ownership over that. And you can essentially replicate this through some of the guidelines we've already put together. So here we go. We've got our layers organized by colors. And essentially, if you wanted to say, oh, I'm just interested in aquatic ecosystems and taking my students to some wetland or some creek, those points pop up. You can see where they are, kind of helps you figure out, that's within field trip distance, or is this maybe a larger kind of commitment. And then when you click on one of these points, you get, we try to have a minimum description. This is the name of the organization. Here's their website. What we really want is to have a point of contact on there for people to call up and say, hey, I heard about you guys through this outdoor education map, outdoor experts map. You seem to be the go-to person. We're interested in getting out there with the kids. What can you tell us? How can we do that? So this is kind of view mode only. You don't have to log in. You don't have to create an account or anything. You can see this without that. I myself have logged in already to the map editor suite. So when you become an editor, it looks like this. It's as simple as a Google map. You can search for places you already know, or you can zoom in, and a lot of the Google, Dutchman Dairy. That's probably not a good candidate, but there's one you could add in. Or you can pick a point or a polygon just by simply grabbing one of these tools, putting it down. Maybe this is a forestry education site. And then you just add in a description following some of the templates that we have for minimum information. Gives you the ability to throw in photos and interactive material, links to websites, so you can get more guidance on what that site might look like. And it's added into that category. So it's just that simple data point on the map. And that's really the point we wanted to get across with that demonstration. And I guess that's probably it for what we wanted to show everybody. And we'd love to answer any questions at this point, and welcome the discussion. So feel free to unmute yourself. I think some of you probably already put some questions in the chat, right?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Of course.
Are all the points that you have on these maps ones where you have a point of contact, or can they just be an area of interest that you could sort of self-direct? Or is the idea to have more of like, we want this to be sort of guided?
Yeah, these are all points of contact that we've, a couple of the centers we haven't been to, but all of the other places is we've had kind of someone on the ground that's been there. And then so we have the expert leave their name. So hopefully we want that point of contact with the place or the person that you're going to be meeting. And then the outdoor expert also leaves their name at the bottom. And they can also be, I guess, a second source of contact about, you know, potential things to do there. But we do want it to be, not necessarily just kind of a wish list, but maybe places that people have been and they've checked out and they're like, hey, yeah, this is ready for other people to go there.
Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking like in our area, there's a lot of backcountry, right? And there are lots of really amazing places that you can go and that you can take your kids to, but they're not necessarily guided. But if someone were to go there and were to like leave pictures and say, listen, this is an activity that I took my kids out and this is where we were and this is what we saw. Could it work in that capacity as well? Or is that sort of not really following the vision that you have?
No, I would say that fits, right? As long as someone's been there and could validate that it's a practical site to go to. There's education opportunities. I would say if you're putting the point on the map, we would ideally want you to put your name as the reference for. That's right. As who's kind of the champion or ownership of this site.
Okay. Yeah. It just also in terms of like someone could contact you and be like, oh, hey, what did you do? And then you could answer that email. Okay, that's cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So while I have you on screen share still, I figured I'd show you guys. We can set up virtual tours as well. It's pretty straightforward to be able to just link to a 3D Google Maps version of one of the sites. And so I've got this link embedded right on the Outdoor Experts map. In the description, it takes you to this virtual tour. You know, it gives you a points of where to go and what to see for folks who have never been there before, or maybe there's no guided tour available. And it's just one more tool you can use.
Yeah, so we've thought about different ways to kind of present the idea, and we really like the idea of keeping it, you know, organic and with, you know, just you know, people that are out there doing it, people that are experiencing it, people that care about it, and just wanted to see where this can go. We shared out our map to the Vernon district just a few weeks ago, and it's been very well received from educators and the board. And yeah, so we're pretty excited about it, and we know that there's a lot of people around the province like us that love the outdoors, that want to make a difference, that understand that environmental education is imperative for the future. So we're hopeful that others take it up in other places.
I have a question. Are you ever worried about overwhelming your experts with too many requests for guided tours and things like that?
For sure. And that definitely came up within our focus group, is that, yeah, some experts can get overwhelmed if people are contacting them. And a couple people that I have, that I see, decided not to put their name on the map, just for that kind of, that very reason. But others, they made the choice to say, yeah, I'm willing to be part of this. And so, I guess there is certainly the risk of them getting a bit burnt out. And I think hopefully educators, a little bit of the professional development shifts from kind of being more of just starting to create relationships within the community, and not necessarily just kind of one-offs, right? So it's not just a one-off that you're meeting with an expert and you're going away and you're doing something as a result of that. And maybe there's a follow-up, maybe there can be check-ins. Yeah, that's kind of the way I kind of envision it.
I think that's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
That's my take.
Well, I just know
Yeah,
that
it's a problem, but it's
in
a
our
good problem.
district, I know in our district that especially if you're dealing with First Nations elders, they can be get fatigued with the amount of requests from classrooms for that First Nations content and things like that. So I'm just wondering, yeah, if your experts have come across that, or if they are hesitant. And so you kind of answer that question.
Yeah, certainly some can be, yeah.
I can see what might happen when we get to a point where we're getting feedback like that from people saying, this was great at first and now it's too much. It's not very difficult to integrate a little scheduling tool where they have full control to say, look, I've got 1 week of the year. I can do 3 sessions in the year. Let's schedule it and have that done on a calendar integration right on the map tool. It's a pretty technically simple thing to do that might alleviate some of that problem. It's a good point.
Just scrolling through the chat here, Cass, I'm just wondering if there's any questions that people ask that they don't feel like got the answer that they're looking for. We got people from all over the province. It's awesome.